everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our latest edition of the Congressional Western Caucus and my Chairman's Chat. This week, I'm delighted to welcome one of my best friends in Congress, Mr. Austin Scott from the great state of Georgia. Austin's not only a member of the Western Caucus, which we're very proud of that, thank you for your membership, but he also serves, and this is very important to all our farmer friends, he's chairman of the, I'll get it right, General Farm Commodities, Risk Management and Credit Subcommittee of the House Agriculture Committee. But you also serve as the vice chair of the entire committee, so that's a pretty big deal. So thank you for joining me, Austin. I appreciate it. You know, I'm a farmer from the great state of Washington. I always enjoy talking farming with agriculturalists, even though I don't know much about cotton and peanuts. Yeah, but we have a lot in common. So thanks for joining me. I want to ask you a question. Sure. I just gave you the name of the subcommittee. Mr. Scott is chairman of. Tell us a little bit about that committee and why it should be something that people that are watching think is important.
Yeah, well, certainly, if you're in business, you understand risk management, and if you're in agriculture, you understand risk management as it relates to growing our crops, the crops that we depend on for our food and our fiber. And obviously, if you're in agriculture, you understand what's happening with the increased cost of inputs and the additional risk that has come in growing crops. So what we deal with predominantly, I would tell you, is the risk management aspect in making sure that our farmers have the different products that they need to mitigate their risk in production agriculture. So I'm not supportive of anything that guarantees anybody a profit. I think that distorts markets. But I am very supportive of the crop insurance system, the ag risk coverage, the price loss coverage that people with base acres have, and then making sure that our farmers have access to credit so that they can grow the crops. And I'll tell you, Dan, one of my concerns is, as we've seen the increased cost of inputs, whether it be land or equipment or seed or fertilizer or diesel or labor. We just got another increase in Georgia on labor. I think it was 7% this time. Seems like it was 18% last time. It's a significant increase, especially if you're a smaller farmer. Is how do we mitigate the risk? Because when you're that farm family and you've been farming for generations, it only takes one bad year to lose what you've been able to accumulate over the last several years. And so very, very concerned about what we need to do with reference prices and having them reflect the cost of inputs so that if we have a collapse in commodity prices, that our farmers don't, they need a stop loss in there to help them mitigate the risk of production agriculture. And if you're not farming today, you're probably not going to be farming tomorrow. And making sure that we keep those farm families in business, again, not guaranteeing a profit, but giving them the tools they need to mitigate the risk is the responsibility of that subcommittee, and that's the job that we've got to do.
That's a vital safety net that we always
Absolutely.
Talk about. Absolutely. People ask me if once in a while, the conversation turns to gambling. And ask me, do I gamble? I said, I don't have to. I'm a farmer. We put it all on the table every year.
That's right. That's right.
So, Congress, we just passed a continuing resolution.
We did.
And in that continuing resolution was, let me get this right, an extension of the Farm Bill until next September. So that will give us a little more time to work on finishing our work on the Farm Bill. But what does that do? Should we be worried about that, Austin?
Yeah, well, what it doesn't do is it doesn't give us additional crop insurance tools. It doesn't give us an updated reference price. It basically keeps things as they were last year. As you know, Dan, we as Republicans have a 5-seat margin. We've got some in our party that today we've got some in our party that are not supportive of the Farm Bill. That's disappointing to me, but it's just factually speaking. And then, as you know, in today's scenario, today's budget, SNAP, supplemental nutrition, gets about 80% of total Farm Bill spending.
Yeah.
And so it has moved from, somewhere in the 60% range over the last several years to about 80%. And that is squeezing everything else in the Farm Bill from the standpoint of the dollars that are actually available for risk mitigation. And I will tell you that the two go hand in hand. What's good for production agriculture is good for the food consumer, and what's bad for production agriculture is bad for the food consumer. There are a lot of things that put us at risk in the food supply. Just a couple of several months ago now, but think back to what happened with eggs when we had a lot of the chickens died, and you saw the shortage of eggs. And what happened with egg prices? It was supply and demand takes the price through the roof, and that's reflected whether you're going to the grocery store or in my part of the world we love to eat at Waffle House. And so eating at a restaurant became more expensive, and then buying eggs at the grocery store became significantly more expensive. And so those are the types of things that we have to make sure we're taking into account when we write the Farm Bill. It is making sure that we do take care of the people who need some assistance to buy the food. But we also have to take care of the people that are putting the food on the shelves, the producers.
So, Austin, like we said, this is what we talk about is the safety, the farm safety. So, could you talk a little bit about some of those important programs specifically, maybe, and some of your, maybe more importantly, what are some of the improvements that you're looking to get in this next farm bill?
Well, I think the crop insurance system is the one area that is it's got to improve. I mean, it works pretty good for certain traditional row crop commodities that we have out there. There are other commodities that it doesn't work very well for. In my area, vegetables, fruits, those types of crops, the insurance products that don't work very well for. And so those are areas where we would very much like to see additional crop insurance products put into the market. That's obviously a partnership between the federal government and the private sector, which I think has worked pretty well for the producers in your traditional, whether it be corn or soybeans or cotton, traditional crops. The insurance system has worked pretty well for. We need to see that system expanded and available for the non-traditional crops as well. That's going to be a challenge from a risk management standpoint, but that is, I think, the best way to give farm families the ability to have a stop loss on the risk that they're going to take this year when they put the crop in the ground. And as you talking about gambling, you can't risk it all, right? And so we're not going to guarantee anybody a profit. You distort markets when you guarantee a profit. That's not good for anybody long term. Most good farmers don't want to guarantee profit. I would say no good farmer wants to guarantee profit. They want a competitive market, but they also need the ability to cap the amount that they have at risk when they go into the year. So that's the area that I see in trying to get more crop insurance products on the market. And then with regard to ARC and PLC, trying to get updated reference prices so that they reflect the additional cost of inputs today. And then on the credit side, something I'd like to see is us opening up, especially for the beginning, young, and small farmers, more of a loan guarantee with the private sector. So I would much rather see your beginning, young, and small farmer go to your community bank and get an SBA-style loan that we provide a guarantee on than to see them going directly to the USDA for that loan. And the reason I say that is because if you go to that local community bank, that banker is going to want to know what's it going to cost you to grow the crop. What do you think you're going to get out of the crop? They're going to want a business plan. How are you going to grow it? Who are you going to sell it to? And what's your cash flow going to be? And I think that we could get more capital out there with the guarantee than with the direct lending program. And I think that it would be better for the young farmer and the small farmer because they would have to sit down with somebody at the community bank level that actually knows and understands agriculture and the ag business and knows that area. And and maybe helps them develop the relationships with who they're going to sell their crop to and who they're going to buy their supplies from. And as you know, you can't just grow a crop, you've got to sell it. And so we discussed this a little earlier, you've got to have the infrastructure in place. And so in my area, we have a tremendous amount of cotton. And so there are a lot of cotton gins. What we don't have in my area is the infrastructure for grain. And so if you're sitting down with the banker and you've got the idea that you're going to grow a certain crop, and they point out to you that the infrastructure, the trucking system, the other things aren't there for you to actually move that product, maybe you should grow it differently. I think it's more of an opportunity for the relationship with the community banker who understands agriculture to work with that beginning young and small farmer and have more of them succeed than we currently have.
That's great. I agree with all that. I particularly like you mentioning specialty crops and the fact that there's a lot of other attention we should be paying to things besides the major four crops. Sure. A lot of us that are involved in agriculture are involved in those things that we don't typically think of when we think of the farm, the safety net of agriculture.
There's a lot more money that goes into the inputs of a vegetable crop than on peanuts, for example. And then the labor issues are much greater because it's not mechanized with regard to the harvest. And so different crops have different challenges.
Yeah. So Austin, I got to tell you, it gives me a lot of confidence to know as a farmer that we have somebody such as yourself that understands agriculture and their needs, not only on the Western Caucus, but in these important positions on the Agriculture Committee. So thank you for that, and I look forward to continuing working with you on these issues. Before we close up here, I'm going to give you a chance. Any final words you'd like to share with our viewers?
One, thank you for sending Dan up here. There are a lot of good people up here, and Dan's one of them. And I know if you're watching Congress, you're frustrated. I want you to know we're frustrated too. Those of us that are trying to get things done, and the extension is not perfect, but it is better than a lapse. And now we've got work to do to get a farm bill passed. And we need to get this done sooner rather than later. We don't need to wait until September of next year. That's the thing. And I think that in all likelihood it will be done in a bipartisan manner. And I'm hopeful that we get it done and give the producers the tools that they need. Continue with the CRP programs, the other things that are important to the environment, and make sure that the people who are less fortunate have access to SNAP benefits they need as well. Great, thank you.
Good deal. Well, thank you, Austin. Appreciate you being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank all of you for joining us for another edition of the Congressional Western Caucus Chairman's Chat. We'll see you next time.